Hello. Hi, I'm Hisako, a midwife. Okay. Today, I'd like to share some tips for successfully breastfeeding babies up to around 3 months old. When I was trying to breastfeed my first child, I put in a lot of effort. I was advised not to breastfeed without waiting for 2 to 3 hours, as it would prevent the milk from being adequately produced and stored, and would also lead to the baby not being full. I was advised to wait 2 to 3 hours for the milk to accumulate and fill up my breasts. However, the baby often cries from hunger before 2 to 3 hours have passed. At the 2-week and 1-month checkups, I was advised to give more formula due to insufficient weight gain, leading to a mixed feeding approach. I believe my lack of effort in breastfeeding also played a part. My sister and friends who gave birth at other maternity hospitals were advised to feed their babies whenever they were hungry, no matter the time. Even though only an hour had passed, they were already breastfeeding, and honestly, I felt envious. I didn't want to give up on breastfeeding, so when my baby was 3 months old, I visited a midwifery clinic. They said it would be difficult to increase my milk supply at this stage. The stress from my sadness over not being able to breastfeed like everyone else caused me to completely stop producing breast milk. It's not that I dislike formula, but during the postpartum breastfeeding guidance, I was reassured that my breasts were producing plenty of milk, so breastfeeding would be a breeze. It really frustrates me to think that if I had done things correctly, I wouldn't have had to switch to full formula feeding. Now that I'm pregnant with my second child, I want to try harder with breastfeeding than with my first. What should I have done when I had my first child? I would really appreciate it if you could share your advice. Thank you. Gosh, can you believe the advice she was given? I was really surprised to find out that some maternity hospitals still provide this kind of guidance. They say you should wait 2 or 3 hours for the breast milk to accumulate, and then you should feed the baby with the stored milk. And that if you don't feed the baby the stored milk, the baby will not be full. So, they advise you to wait 2 to 3 hours between feedings until your breasts fill up before feeding again. This sounds like advice from 25 years ago, doesn't it? That was just unlucky, wasn't it? Your friends and older sister were told to breastfeed whenever the baby wanted, regardless of the time, even as often as every hour. That's the correct way to do it. So you're currently expecting your second child. Will it be the same hospital? You might hear the same thing again, so let's remember this now. Breastfeeding is entirely guided by the baby, not the mom. If the baby shows signs of hunger, even if it's only been 15 minutes since the last feeding, let them nurse again. Let's allow them to suckle as many times as needed. It's perfectly fine to breastfeed 15 to 20 times a day. So when it comes to getting full, the stomach capacity of a newborn to a 3-month-old baby is only about this much. It can only hold a small amount. It's really challenging to fill such a tiny stomach with enough breast milk or formula to make the baby feel full. So, formula fed from a bottle is different from breast milk in that when your baby sucks on the bottle, a vacuum is created inside, causing the milk to flow automatically. The baby simply swallows what comes out. They're not actually sucking, just moving their mouth. It's really easy for them to drink. With breastfeeding, the baby needs to suck to encourage the milk to come out. It's like the baby is saying, "Come on, I'm sucking now. Respond, mom." This triggers the oxytocin reflex in the mother. Then the hormones are like, "Oh, the baby's sucking now. Let's make more breast milk and flow it down." This is called the let-down reflex. There's a slight delay between when the baby starts sucking and when the milk flows into the baby's mouth. When a baby starts sucking, for some people, the let-down reflex occurs immediately within a few seconds, while for others, it might take a minute or two. The baby needs to keep sucking for a while to stimulate the milk flow. To activate the oxytocin and let-down reflexes, it's crucial for the baby to suck frequently and persistently, especially during the first 3 months. It stimulates these reflexes in the mother. This process of repeated sucking triggers the reflex needed for the mother's body to produce and release milk smoothly, helping to establish a steady flow. A baby doesn't have to drink a lot at one time. A 1.5-month-old baby typically takes around 100 milliliters of formula per feeding if exclusively formula fed. For a baby to drink 100 milliliters of breast milk at once, the milk flow must be strong and the letdown reflex must happen quickly. Some babies who get such a strong flow that it's almost like they're drowning might drink up to 200 to 300 milliliters. Typically, it's not that much. With a regular breast, it's not as easy as formula. The baby tries hard and finally drinks, but runs out of energy before they can drink enough. Even at an age where they need to drink 100 milliliters, it's quite normal for them to only drink 40 milliliters if it's breast milk. Even for the same mom, the letdown reflex can vary depending on the time of day. There can be differences in the frequency of the reflex and the time it takes to occur. For instance, in the morning, milk tends to flow better. Since you've had some rest overnight, the letdown reflex happens more quickly, making it easier for the baby to drink more efficiently in the morning. From evening to night, moms start to feel tired. And even if the baby tries hard to nurse, the letdown reflex might be slower. The letdown reflex might only happen a few times. So at night, the baby might only get 20 milliliters instead of 100 milliliters. If the baby drinks 100 milliliters at one time and only 20 milliliters at another, the intervals won't be the same. Since the baby's intake and the mother's letdown reflexes vary each time, it's not like a machine. The baby can't get hungry every 3 hours on the dot since the situation is different each time. Basically, if the baby shows signs of wanting to drink, offer small amounts frequently. This way, some babies will achieve their total daily intake. Some babies only breastfeed 4 times a day, drinking a large amount each time, and the mother's breast can adapt to this pattern as well. In cases of oversupply of breast milk, issues arise, such as nipple pain, oversuckling leading to nipple lacerations, becoming full of wounds, bleeding, blistering, and causing excruciating pain. Breastfeeding can worsen wounds, so if the pain is intense and the wound is large, use pumping. If the pain is manageable, make sure to keep the areola and nipple moisturized. When you have a wound, your body forms a scab and dries it out to help it heal. Can you imagine a baby sucking on a dry wound and then the scab cracking? That must hurt, right? Keep the wound moisturized and soft to prevent it from getting worse. If the baby latches onto a moisturized and softened area, the scab is less likely to crack. You might feel like wiping off the moisturizer and worry if it got into your baby's mouth. Please don't wipe it off. Please use a baby-safe moisturizer that won't harm your baby if it gets into their mouth while breastfeeding. Please use products that are additive-free and safe if they come into contact with the baby's mouth. At Babu Babu, we offer a product called Marshmallow. This is a safe, additive-free moisturizer that won't harm the baby even if they accidentally swallow it whole. Please use this type of completely safe, additive-free moisturizer to keep your breast moisturized. When breastfeeding, do not wipe it off. Just proceed with feeding as usual. If the pain isn't too bad, you can breastfeed your baby 20 to 30 times a day. When I did the math, breastfeeding 30 times a day means feeding every 48 minutes. So there's no time to put your breast away, which means it's always out, right? You become desensitized to having your breast exposed. You might even forget about it. Then, when the delivery person arrives, you answer the door like that and realize, oh no, that's happened to me. That behavior can be considered a crime, so please be careful. Frequent breastfeeding moms take note. So when the second baby is born, because the initial production was great, rather than forcing a 2 to 3 hour gap, let the baby nurse whenever they want. Yeah, without a doubt, you probably didn't have to switch to formula. Actually, I honestly think that. You wrote, it's probably my lack of effort, but this is not true at all. The experts, the midwives, and the maternity hospitals all advise to leave a 3 hour gap. And aren't you an amateur? If the experts have been guiding you in that way, you would believe it's the right approach and follow it. It's clear that the maternity clinic is at fault here. I believe it's a huge problem to give moms guidance based on unclear mechanisms and dubious evidence, making them feel this way. There are various midwives out there. There are many midwives who stay up to date with the latest breastfeeding knowledge and continuously update their expertise while offering guidance. Some midwives are still using outdated guidance, as if it's from 30 years ago or even the Showa era. They continue to rely on old knowledge. I hope you follow the guidance that presents clear evidence you can trust and feel confident about. During the first 3 months after giving birth, within those crucial 100 days, breast milk production is established. For the first 100 days, the more the baby nurses, the more the mother's body responds. You start to produce breast milk, but if your body feels it cannot keep up, so the body decides to increase the number of milk-producing glands here. This continues until about 3 months. It's like setting up a second factory. You can increase the number of factories. As demand increases, the body adapts and produces more milk. After 100 days, while it's not impossible for milk production to increase with effort, it won't significantly rise. However, even if you breastfeed them as you did 100 days ago, the body will not be able to produce anymore. It's like, sorry, but it is too late to build a second factory now. You received an order, but you're unable to respond to it. Something like this might happen. This usually happens after about 100 days when the baby is over 4 months old. A key aspect of breastfeeding is getting the baby to latch on properly. This can greatly impact the success of breastfeeding. I'm sure the breast milk supply is sufficient. They said that for a first-time mom, your milk production is quite good, which means your mammary glands are developing well. Whenever the baby wants to feed, even if it's every 15 minutes, make sure to let them latch on properly each time. So if the baby falls asleep, there's no point in trying to get them to drink more. If they fall asleep like this, just stop right there. It's okay if you can't nurse for 10 minutes or even 2 to 3 minutes. Once the baby falls asleep, you can stop. If the baby resists, just stop. Short nursing sessions are fine, so aim to do them frequently throughout the day. For some people, overdoing it can lead to excessive milk production. When this happens, having overactive breasts can be really exhausting. Regulating milk production, the ideal situation is when the baby's needs and the mother's milk supply are in harmony. When your breasts feel overly full and engorged, try nursing from just one breast at a time. Let the baby nurse from one breast for about 4 hours, ensuring they only nurse from that side during this time. So, we'll let this side fill up. Once this side is full and 4 hours have passed, switch sides. For the next 4 hours, let the baby nurse only from that side. By creating a state where the breast is somewhat full, the body will learn, oh, producing this much is too much. Let's reduce the production a bit. If you frequently switch sides due to fullness or pump excessively because it's uncomfortable, the body will think, oh, I need to produce more. I need more. Let's make more. When there's an oversupply of breast milk, it's important to manage and adjust production. I'll share another video on this soon. So with the second baby, just feed them whenever they're hungry. Depending on the birth, if labor was prolonged, the baby may have neonatal jaundice and sleep a lot. You're trying a baby-led approach by feeding whenever the baby wants, but the baby doesn't wake up. And when you realize 5 hours have already passed, if the baby doesn't wake up for a while, don't let more than 3 hours pass. It's perfectly okay for the intervals to be very short, no matter how brief. But if it seems like it will be more than 3 hours, please gently wake the baby and feed them. With the second baby, I'm sure you'll succeed with breastfeeding. It's definitely something to look forward to. Both formula and breast milk have their pros and cons, and experiencing both can be a valuable life lesson. Let's try to see it in a positive light. But since you have the ability to produce milk, I believe it's only natural for a mom to want to breastfeed. It's an instinctive desire. If possible, I believe it would be wonderful to aim for that next time. Currently pregnant with my 12th child, this midwife-run school helps you raise your children. Subscribe and join us today.